In progress.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here for the 2022 TESOL Arabia International Conference in Dubai, the first conference which I'm attending in person after the pandemic period. Let me share with you the ongoing research paper, which is currently in progress, I must tell you. Okay, just share the screen. All right, so the topic of my presentation is relevance of emotional intelligence for the teaching staff. Let me share some of those thoughts which I have in mind. This is the overview of the presentation. I'll talk about the introduction to the emotional intelligence, significance of the study, research objectives, hypothesis, methodology, and the approach. I'll also mention a few case studies which we are considering in this research. Well, when you talk about emotional intelligence, now what's the most challenging emotional situation that you face at work on a regular basis? Is it controlling your anger? Is it that you struggle with to being assertive? Or are you struggling with the negative thoughts that you come across? Or is it the difficulty for accepting the failure? Well, what about the situations, or if it is something else also, you can think about it. Now, what are emotions? A mental state that arises spontaneously rather than through conscious effort and is often accompanied by physiological changes. That's emotions. Now, if that is emotion, then what is human intelligence? Because emotional intelligence is a combination of emotion and the intelligence. Human intelligence, which is a mental quality that consists of the abilities to learn from experience, this is a quotation, adapt to new situations, understand and handle abstract concepts, and use knowledge to manipulate one's environment. That's what intelligence, human intelligence means. Now, this is all a part of soft skills, as many of you are aware of it. This is a part of soft skills and, in or otherwise called as transferable skills, we can say. All right, so what is emotional intelligence as a definition? It's a term used, if you look at Peters 2008, to describe various competencies that are essential for building, developing, and managing relationships. And there are two components involved in it. One is intrapersonal component, that is intrapersonal intelligence. The other one is interpersonal intelligence. And intrapersonal intelligence is basically the self-awareness, whereas interpersonal is awareness of people, the society, those who are around us. Now, when you talk about emotional intelligence, it's an awareness of both, how to manage yourself, your emotions, and how to understand the emotions and feelings of people, those who are around us. Now, this is a very, very basic understanding of what emotional intelligence, what does the term mean? Emotional intelligence, in simple terms, is the ability to understand and control your emotions and the emotions of those around you, and to manage those emotions to the best advantage in workplaces or at personal situations. My research objectives are, one is that to identify the extent of emotional intelligence of staff of Oman higher education institutions and its impact on our work output and strengthening of the organization. There are some related objectives, which are to find out the role of emotional intelligence in the growth of the staff, especially the career particularly, and the role of EI or emotional intelligence for those in the leadership positions, and how does it affect employees' performance, and to identify the role of EI in conflict resolution. Having said that, there is a significance of the study and the research gap identified. One is that verify the concept of emotional intelligence that is more effective than the intelligence quotient in determining the personal success. Studies on emotional factors impacting workplace success at higher education institutions have been conducted very rarely. Limited research is available on the emotional intelligence for faculty, which particularly affects the growth of themselves and the students that they cater for. The importance of understanding the need of higher emotional intelligence of higher level employees, and one gap is that no such study has been conducted among the staff in Omani higher educational institutions. The hypothesis includes there's a significant correlation between emotional intelligence and workplace success. There is also limited relationship between educational qualifications and career growth. Let's now look at the methodology. It's planned to conduct an exploratory research design that will be applied to provide the theoretical structure of the research problem. The primary data collection method will be based on a structured questionnaire, which will be distributed to the employees, and interviews conducted in selected HEIs in Oman. 100 respondents are targeted from the government and private HEIs in Oman, and the secondary data will be collected from journals and online resources in particular. Have you heard about the primary colors? If you look at any kindergarten child, or if you go ask any school-going children, especially the primary schools, the pre-primary schools, the most of the times you'll be asking, or they'll be fond of the primary colors. And if you look at the primary colors, we identify that there are only 3 primary colors. Any idea? It's red, blue, and yellow. Every other color is a combination of these primary colors. Now, why was it told here? Just like there are primary colors, we have also primary emotions. So how many primary emotions do we have? Think about it a while. Well, we have 4 primary basic emotions, which are mad, sad, glad, and scared. That means angry or extreme sadness, extreme happiness or extreme fear. So these are the basic emotions, the 4 basic emotions for human beings. Every other emotions, whether it is jealousy, whether it is disgust, everything is a combination of one of these, 2 or more of these. But there are basic 4 emotions for us. Now, why is EQ is more important than IQ? So several studies have identified that emotional intelligence matters for an individual up to 80% of the life success. When you call life, it is not only career, but also personal life. You can see that some people are very high in IQ, but their emotional quotient is very low, that they struggle in their personal life, they struggle as individuals, they're not able to cope with the society, the people of the society. They always are seen as somebody who is different and doesn't fit into the society. And there are lots of social skills we expect when people live in the society, and educational institutions are no different from that. Why to resolve conflict? The conflict management or resolving conflict is an essential skill. Being less critical is also important. Don't overthink and realize that you're not that big of a deal. So these are some of the skills that we should have in order to achieve some kind of decorum or peace in our personal life. Okay, further to speak about emotional intelligence, there are lots of reviews by researchers by Salovey and Mayer and Goldman, okay, which I think many of you are aware of. Goldman, who is said to be the pioneer of emotional intelligence study. Well, perhaps until 2000, we are more concerned about intelligence quotient. It's only by the end of 2000s and the early 2000s, the path-breaking study by Daniel Goleman revealed that emotional intelligence is an important factor in determining one's ability to succeed in life and directly influence one's psychological well-being. Again, there are lots of studies conducted even late in the late period. Okay, so employees who have been different personalities at any workplace have different personalities. react differently to situations, similar situations. So faculty and staff at higher education institutions are no exceptions to the influence of emotions in the work environment. So this is what mentioned earlier. The personal success determines the 80% of emotional intelligence that matters to it, whereas only 20% determines the IQ particularly. We've mentioned about Daniel Goleman, who published a book that is a path-breaking, a groundbreaking study on emotional intelligence that redefines what we consider to be smart. There are 4 domains, basic domains. One is self-awareness, then the second one is self-management, and from there it emerges to social awareness, and then relationship with management. Relationship management, dealing with others in the society. So self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, and relationship management. These are the 4 broad, we can say, criteria in emotional intelligence. Now let's look at how Daniel Goleman explains emotional intelligence. There are 4 basic components of self-awareness. The second one is self-control, empathy, and social skills. Now, why self-awareness? Knowing your emotions and why do we feel is an important element of understanding oneself. Why am I in this sad mood? Why am I feeling so low? You need to introspect into your own moods and emotions and know the reasons why do we feel that. The reason why do we do that is then only we can control our thoughts and to recognize that feelings that affect my performance. Only if we can identify and recognize and pinpoint what emotions, what kind of a situation is causing this emotion, then only we can deal with this emotion. Self-awareness is also to know your own goals. You should know where you're going. You should know what is your plan, what is your target, what is your goal or objective. The less aware of what makes us passionate, the lost we will be. So self-awareness also include to be aware of our strengths and the weaknesses, learning from the past experience, open to receiving feedback, which some of us might find it very difficult to, and understanding the new perspectives and self-development in the future. So that's self-awareness. The second element is called self-control. Now that you're aware of your own self, what are the thoughts that, what is the situation, you should be able to control your emotions. As you can see in the image, the self-control is in action. So any emotional thing is being controlled by intelligence there, holding, and then there's a combination of emotion and the intelligence to see that there is self-confidence and there is a reduction to stress. I think stress we'll talk about a little later also, how stress is affecting everyone at their workplace. The third one, other than self-awareness and self-control, is empathy. Empathy is a very powerful feeling to understand, to sense what others feel without them saying. When you look at the person, it is not what they said, but how they said is important. To understand the body language of an individual is extremely essential, and it's a big tool for leaders and managers to understand how their staff members feel. Because many of them will not reveal, many of them will not open up what they feel or what they undergo. But we can understand the feelings or the emotions that they undergo by careful observation and study. It could be the facial expressions or the tone of their voice or the non-verbal body language, the gestures. Everything can affect, can reveal their emotional situation. The most important ways to show empathy is first to listen to people. The ability to listen quietly is a skill by itself, because we all know that communication is most important. So we are keen, we are eager to communicate and talk. However, listening is an important skill where you need to keep your mouth shut, at the same time pay close attention to the individual by giving the eye contact, understanding the cues and the non-verbal gestures, and then develop your own steps to resolve the situation. The fourth element in emotional intelligence, as Daniel Goleman speaks, is social skills. Now, social skills is the awareness of individuals and people who are around us. It is a trust that we have for people around us. It is to understand the need, the pulse of people who work with us, who live with us, and to communicate effectively to these individuals. A little while said we said about stress. Now, there are two kinds of stress. One is eustress, the other one is distress. Eustress is positive stress. You need this kind of stress to understand, to do a performance, to give a presentation, to write an exam, to appear for an interview. You undergo certain stress, but that stress is a challenge for you. It is something that you have to overcome, and it's good for you. If you don't have stress, you may not, your performance may not be effective. In some workplace situations where everybody's, it's a happy-go-lucky, personality, including the boss and the subordinates, there is no stress there. You need some kind of stress to do your performance in the effective manner. So eustress enhances the capacity, enhances the performance output, both physically and mentally. On the other hand, the other one is called distress. When you talk about distress, it's a negative stress, and it needs to real anxiety, depression. It can be chronic. It disrupts activities. It affects our health, physical and mental health. So in many situations, you can see this kind of an impact can affect our personal life in particular. Now, think about individual stress profile. You'll think about individual stress profile. There's always a high and a low. Some people have a small stress profile. They have extreme stress. They get extremely stressful in simple situations and they get burnt out. Whereas some people have a larger stress profile. While some people get burnt out, these people feel the excitement. These people would feel the challenge that lies in front of them, and they take it, like take the bull by its horns. They take it for, with all their vigor. So it's an individual pattern, how you understand, how you take stress, but it's good to understand. So there's a healthy tension is needed. There's healthy tension needed at any performance that we are giving our best. So without this healthy tension, there's a lack of enthusiasm at work. There is no, you don't feel the enjoyment at work, whether it is teaching or, be it any other activity. So if you're having an extremely stressful situation, that can lead to fatigue, ill health, or even a burnout feeling. Now, we know that we all communicate in two languages at work: verbal language and body language. But studies have shown now that 93%, okay, and this is based on Albert Meherbian's study in 1971, 93% of our face-to-face expressions, communication is conveyed non-verbally. Only the 7% is by words. Okay, so in a face-to-face communication, as it takes place in the classrooms, the non-verbal becomes the most powerful means of conveying your feelings or your attitudes or the content of your lecture. When it comes to telephonic communication, 18% is content and 82% is the tone of your message. Now, how do we plan to find out from the study, from the faculty members, the staff of HEIs in Oman? Based on a 5-point competency model of emotional intelligence by Daniel Goleman, that's one method. It speaks about self-awareness, self-motivation, empathy, social skills, relationship management. All these elements are there. And plus Geneva Emotional Competence Test is also included, identified in this. So here the 4 areas are emotional recognition, understanding of emotions, emotional regulation, and emotional management. And these areas are applied as a questionnaire, and those selected managers as well as professionals, especially faculty members, are given a task to answer these battery of questions. The value of output in our research are expected to reveal interesting insight into the influence of emotions that play a role in higher education institutions. It's also envisaged that the study will contribute substantially to empower management and staff of HES to be conscious of their emotional intelligence and to improve emotional intelligence for decision-making process, because we know that emotions, thoughts leads to thoughts, behavior, and then performance outcome also. So let's talk about two practical situations that we might come across in the classroom. First of all, think about that emotions lead to thoughts, and thoughts leads to behavior, and behavior leads to performance outcomes. So we know that to identify the emotions is the primary, the fundamental, the basics of understanding yourself and your emotions. Case number one is an overconfident student A. Now, this overconfident student comes to your class with a know-it-all feeling. So you can imagine how intimidated you might be. Here, it's important to understand the student's EI, emotional intelligence, plus yourself also. How is your emotional intelligence? How strong it is in this kind of situation? Imagine the student makes an announcement in the class which you overheard that this couldn't be a boring session because you know the subject, you have done this before. You have done this as some module earlier, you have done a course like this before. So everybody in the group looks so deflated. So they don't feel anything encouraging over there. Your emotions and feelings are also affected because you face a situation where your classroom situation, your class students are also influenced by this one single personality with a very high, assertiveness. Now, this person, on the other hand, we might feel that we might have, it might affect our self-esteem also. What is important here is to exercise impulse control and use empathy. Now, what is impulse control? If you blurt out anything at this moment when the student speaks about a know-it-all feeling, it will really damage the class situation. There could be an argument between the student and you. So please understand that in this situation, student A may have a very high emotion and expressions also, and he or she may have a high assertiveness and the language that can be used, language competence. However, this student will have a very low social awareness, which is an important or integral element of emotional intelligence. Knowing how to behave in the society in front of people so that we don't become a social embarrassment for others and those belonging to, those who are with us. And it also, the student might be having some relationship issues, and it's an indication of a low self-esteem if you study carefully. Anybody who shows off in the situation may have a challenge that they're dealing with in their personal lives. Case number two is a nervous student, and this nervous student says that he or she is not able to understand, not able to undergo this course of the pressure that he has, and he feels so rejected, so low with their emotions and esteem that he doesn't feel that he fits into this class because of the peer group pressure. Now, the group's emotions and feelings are also important over here. To understand yourself emotionally, and the social awareness of the situation is also to be taken into consideration. What are the solutions that you as a coach, you as a trainer or a faculty member can adopt? Copying your role models. Now, what does it mean of copying your role models? How would my ideal role model act and think in the situation? You face a situation where a student is almost challenging your competence over his or her, overbearing attitude. How should you react and think what I want to be a role model? So think about what is your role model. I'm sure we all have role models in our career life. Think about how my role model would have behaved in the situation. Let me try to do in that way. The second, a few more methods are there. The second method is a power pose. What is a power pose? In emotional intelligence, one of the techniques by which it's recommended that in order to regain your self-esteem, Stand in a stand at ease position with shoulders back and the chest up. Now this power pause by yourself, you need not be in the class, not in front of the student, outside the session, will exactly make a situation, make yourself feel more confident. And the third one is resource anchor. You can speak something positive about yourself in your mind, saying that I'm a best in the subject. I'm best in the subject. And I'm the, no one knows exactly what I have. So this is called a resource angle, or some mantras that you can chant. Remember, this is a very personal, and it's to be practiced by yourself without any indication for the people outside that you're practicing. Reinforcing the aims and the outcomes of the session. This is what another external method of engaging back to the students. Okay, the thing is, you can say that no, reinforce the aims and outcomes of the session. The direct action can be call the student, and you don't have to be intimidated by the student. Involve the student and tell him or her that having known this session, having attended the session, is a big advantage in his life, in his personal life or her personal life. And we would like to make use of that advantage, put that into practice for the benefit of the rest of the students. So that's a direct action. So use the student as a kind of resource person for sharing some of the thoughts, some of the discussion that you have. Another technique, which is a final technique, is a rubber band technique. This is another age-old technique that you wear a rubber band, and every time a negative thought comes to your mind, flip this rubber band, let it sting on your body. So the pain on the body is associated, or will be associated, always with a negative thought. So every time there is a negative thought in your mind, your thoughts are wandering, flip this rubber band on your body. So this will, the body, the brain naturally associates the negative impact with the pain. So it controls. You're actually programming your brain not to wander with your negative thoughts, but to control it back to the present situation. Also, think about, after the end of the session, what did you do well in the session? What could have been done better in the session? So these are the practical tips that we will be thinking about when you have such students within the class. Student B, case study number 2, is a nervous participant who gives no eye contact, very hesitant, and the participant says, I've changed my mind. I'm not attending this course. I'm going to quit this course. I'm going to quit this college. So very defensive attitude. This is a nervous participant. So nervous participant, remember, always lacks, confidence. They have very low self-esteem, and expression of the emotions are very low, and low optimism also. So this student might blur out something, and then give them a group task. Actively involve them in a group task, or tell them not to participate in the group, but you can just be an observer of the group. And if you feel like, you can come later on and see after a week's time, in the next session, after 2 days' time. So talk to this participant, affirm that his feelings, it could be right, you may not be fitting in, but see what the benefit can help, what benefits can do with the situation. Help solve the problem, and never express too much empathy towards this person, because it may not serve you professionally. If you're empathetic with such cases, emphasis on emotional emphasis might be affecting the rest of the students, because they came to study, they came to understand your concepts. So do not spend too much time on this single individual case in the class itself. Managing your own stress level is also important, because when we have such situations, as teachers, as trainers and faculty members, we undergo stress level, and regulate your own emotions and thoughts in the same way as mentioned earlier. So remember, you, the individuals and the group, everyone has a role to play for the success of your program by itself. It's always good to know that, think about what is going on below the surface. Why is the student, where is the student coming from? I mean, Why is a student speaking like that? There may be lots of things which goes unnoticed in this person. Try to understand the person. Many of these people have personal issues that they're struggling with. So these are only expressions that they can do to divert their mental struggle. So that could be possibly the reason in which they're trying like that. Always remember, emotions are contagious. Okay, let me skip this particular area of this. Okay, so what we finally are planning to do here is in this research is, as I mentioned, it's an ongoing research. We are planning to identify the individuals within and then conduct a survey based on that. And the survey will be online as well as offline survey. We have identified some of those focus groups, people for conducting the individual interview sessions, and we hope to receive a good feedback from the faculty members so that we can complete our paper in the coming year. So with this, I conclude the session, and thank you for TESOL Arabia for giving me this opportunity to present my paper here, and wish you all the best, and thank you so much.